Dr. Dre is a name everyone knows, whether from his music, performances, movies about him, the fact that he started Burning Man, or maybe even that one time he ordered a hit on Suge Knight, allegedly. But what many of you may not know about are his career ties to a lot of legendary artists and his influence over today in many ways. Before we get into his reach over the industry, some backstory as to how we got to this point is due though. Dr. Dre is a goat of the industry, originally growing up in Compton, before eventually attending Fremont High in LA, where he would get rejected from an aviation manufacturing company. Getting rejected from that school is potentially one of the most impactful things that's ever happened to a musician, because it made him re-gear and start focusing on entertainment, leading him to a broadcasting school and then to becoming a DJ at Eve's After Dark, a prominent spot in the history of LA due to it originating outside of LA's incorporated area, allowing them to stay open until 5 in the morning, where a recording studio was eventually installed in the back of the club. Eve's After Dark is where Dre eventually met DJ Yella, and they eventually began recording in the back together. After the Doctor joined WCWC, he began to make a name for himself.
You know how long I've been waiting for this? Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Dre found himself with Ice Cube sometime later, who he recorded with for Eazy-E's record label, Ruthless Records, and suddenly the Infinity Stones were all together forming NWA. Their hit, Fuck the Police, quickly brought them to attention as it sparked outrage from many across the country, as well as allowing them the honor of receiving a warning from the FBI. In 1991, just as things were reaching peak levels of success for the group, tensions began to rise, and Dre and Eazy-E had a falling out, leading to Dre founding Death Row Records with Suge Knight. Yes, the same Suge Knight he ordered a hit on, allegedly. Death Row is where Dre's true pipeline begins. Death Row Records is one of the most notable record labels in the history of hip-hop. They were releasing massive records and changing the scene of rap forever, while simultaneously being tied to murders and intimidation. The beginnings were much simpler though. They brought many different names to prominence, including Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Nate Dogg, and more. Dre was putting out solo works while producing for his peers and has credits to Doggy Style, California Love, and Natural Born Killers. Things quickly began to go south for Death Row, however, and Dre left due to conflicts with Suge Knight, who, according to Dre, was corrupt along many other things. The aftermath of Dre leaving led to eventual poor sales and controversies, including the untimely demise of Tupac, alongside Suge Knight being charged with racketeering. Dr. Dre formed his own label, Aftermath Entertainment, after his departure, and quickly got to work with a #1 collaboration with the Blackstreet Group, which ended up winning a Grammy. This wasn't well received by the Death Row Boys though, and a diss was released by a few, including a similar instrumental that was hit with a cease and desist by Blackstreet. Aftermath's first true order of business though, releasing a compilation album of everyone signed under the label that ended up going platinum. Amidst performance struggles from the label and a coast-to-coast rivalry, Dre separated himself almost entirely, choosing to instead continue working with younger artists, and then he went to New York to do work with Nas, LL Cool J, and Jay-Z. The year is 1998 now, and Dre is approached by Jimmy Levine of Interscope Records about signing a young white rapper from Detroit going by the alias of Eminem. Dre decided to meet up and produce for the artist, and this had an incredibly massive butterfly effect that would lead to lasting commercial success. Dre and Eminem worked together on 5 songs off the Slim Shady LP, which brought Eminem to the center of the public's crosshairs and all but revived Aftermath. Dr. Dre then released his album 2000, his second solo record, and a return to the gangsta rap he had been known for in the past. He then turned his attention back to producing and worked with M on the Marshall Mathers LP, which went on to earn a Grammy and become the fastest selling rap album of all time. And then got in the studio with Mary J. Blige and Gwen Stefani. Only 4 short years later, riding off the back of successes high as the tallest skyscrapers, Dre kept his finger on the pulse of hip-hop, this time signing 50 Cent. This led to the release of Get Rich or Die Tryin', which is one of the most notable albums in the history of the genre, and was yet another jewel in the crown atop his head. Following this, it would be all gas and no brakes for the Doctor, as he would go on a run rivaled by none for years to come. Now that we've laid out plenty of backstory and gone in depth into the overview of Dr. Dre's career from the beginnings through to a bit of the present day, it's time to venture further into the pipeline that is him first picking up a microphone to now influencing an entire genre and having a grasp over the beginnings of many. To start, it's really safe to say that Eminem, who's in the discussion for being one of the greatest rappers of all time, may have never reached the heights he did if not for Dre. Even speaking on this in some of his songs over time, Dre took a massive chance on a white rapper from Detroit at a time when white rappers weren't accepted, and through that decision, it's inspired countless people. He had a plan bringing Tupac on the scene, Nas in the beginnings, Jay-Z, then there's 50 Cent, whose first album to blow was covered in Dre's work. Snoop Dogg wouldn't have been brought to our attention without. NWA would have never laid a foundation for pushing the boundaries of music either. Then you have your artists like Kendrick Lamar, where Dre refuses to take credit for their success, but without Dre, doors that were opened may not have been, and in part, Dre is responsible for giving them the key to the city in a sense.
Kendrick Lamar is a real motherfucking artist.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the true definition of the word.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's what I was
And
going to ask you. What is
the only
your...
thing I can take credit for is opening the door for him.
Mhm.
Because he's done everything himself.
Mhm.
Him and Dave Free.
The Doctor isn't only responsible for giving us those artists that have been mentioned so far, though, because those artists went on to inspire millions, and through their works we've received even more artists that have gone on to become many of our favorites. Think of all the rappers or musicians in general who have given credit to Eminem for their initial inspiration. 50 Cent for giving them inspiration. Kendrick for giving them inspiration. Snoop for giving them inspiration. Tupac for giving them inspiration. Nas for inspiration. NWA for inspiration. The list truly goes on and on. Dr. Dre may have never been your favorite artist, or even an artist you have given second thought to or any credit. His personal peak was before many of us, but his impact and hand in forming a hip-hop scene that continues to grow day in and day out is undeniable, and there will never be another Dr. Dre.